Welcome to Frontline Women, a show dedicated to women on the leading edge of change and culture renewal in America. I'm Dalisia Coppersmith, and I'll be your host and guide as we explore emerging issues and opportunities for women to lead side by side with men every day. So let's get off the sideline and onto the front line right now. Today, we're going to talk about a few ways that you can tell if you are truly free to lead. Okay, so do you know what I mean by that? That you maybe been put in a situation, I shouldn't call your job a situation, but it could be. But you've been put into a role that is a leadership role. You have certain responsibilities and there are expectations around that, and you're ready for it, right? You've spent your whole life getting ready for this. You have the technical expertise, you've developed yourself as a leader, and you are ready to rock. The question that really should be answered very, very quickly when you step into a role is, am I truly free to lead? Not just have I been given the title and the office, and the email address and all the things that go with it, but am I truly free to lead? I believe that we know instinctively when we're not. It starts with a physical feeling, like a feeling in your gut that you feel kind of trapped, or you feel like you are being blocked somehow. So how can we look at this? I think every now and then in our leadership roles, we should take stock of whether we're truly free to lead. And by the way, I'm not just talking to women who are in formal management positions or executive positions. You may be on a project team and you're given a certain task that you're responsible for, or part of a program that you lead. So you don't have to be the boss to provide leadership. This still applies to you, even if you're not in a formal leadership role. So I want to give you 5 questions to ask yourself today. If you're on your way to work, this is a perfect time. But don't get mad and run off the road if the answer is no to some of these. But there are 5 questions I'm going to ask you to consider and decide what you want to do or whether you want to do anything about it if the answer is no to any of these. I took stock of my own leadership role several years ago. I'd been in it for a while, and for some reason, it just seemed like I kept hitting snags. I kept hitting roadblocks. I was given greater responsibility, yet I felt like I was able to do less. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like being gaslit, but unintentionally, by your organization. When you know that you're progressing and you know you're succeeding, your performance reviews say so, your results say so, and yet you feel like a boa constrictor is around you. You feel like you're asking for the things that you need. You are clear about where you want to go, and it seems like people agree with that. But why aren't things moving? On the other hand, there have been other times, and quite frankly, I did something about that, and I experienced something different after, where you are free to lead. And you feel like when you say something, it matters, you are heard, you're allowed to make your vision come to reality. So let's take stock today of what's going on with you in your leadership role, whether formal or informal. Okay, so let's dive into these 5 questions. The first question I have for you is, do your decisions stick? When you make a decision and communicate that decision, is that the final answer? Or do people need to go to someone higher, and especially if it's a man? Do they need to seek a paternal figure to get validation that what you're saying is actually what's going to happen and that they have to comply with that? And so this is something important that I wanted us to really take stock of today. When we communicate a decision, does it stick? What's the last thing that you decided and communicated? Did anybody come back around and try to change your mind? Did they literally play mommy and daddy and go to some male authority figure to say, are we really doing this? Do we really have to do this? So answer this for yourself. It's a yes or no question. Do your decisions stick? The second question, are you adequately resourced for the work that you oversee? Now, I think I said in the last episode or one of these that, pretty much everybody that I coach and mentor says that they are under-resourced. So first of all, let's just say that's the environment. Everybody feels under-resourced. But the question is, are you adequately resourced for the work you oversee? I'd like to give you an example of a time where I was not. I was given responsibility for something, and it was based on both my military background and my business background. But I was told over and over, just tell us what you need. Let us know what you need. And week after week, I was asking for this resource that would help me to put a little more automation into this project that I was overseeing. And week after week, I was not given that resource. They just kind of didn't want to move on it. Well, after several weeks of this, and let me tell you what this was. It was me doing my day job at night while I was doing this job during the day. So when you're still keeping up with your regular duties and you've been given this heap of extra work and told that all you have to do is ask for what you need, and they let you suffer that way. Okay, they literally just let you suffer, even though you're asking for what you need. Well, after several weeks of this, I said, look, I'm giving up my evenings and my weekends so I can do both of these jobs. It's not tenable, and it's really not resulting in the best decisions. I'm being left to make some decisions that, frankly, department heads should be making for themselves as far as prioritizing people on a thing. Doesn't matter what it was. And I simply needed their lists of prioritization. And instead of me bringing this up and being told, you know what, we have ignored you for, the last 8 weeks while you've suffered. Instead of that, I was actually blamed because of the title I had given that resource. Like, well, I think they were just tired of hearing you say whatever I called it. Okay. What do you think about that? Like, can you imagine what that's like for, 2 months doing 2 jobs and every week being told, oh, just let us know what you need. And then you tell them what you need again and again and again, and they don't give it to you. And then they say, well, I think they're just tired of hearing you say this one word, which is completely ridiculous, right? Okay, call it something else, but I need the resource. Well, it was about 2 or 3 months later that one of my male peers started using that same word, okay, on something he was managing. And, oh, you couldn't say that word enough. Everybody was saying that word and how we were going to implement this by, that specific type of resource. That's a situation where I knew, you know what, they were careful to give me the responsibility because I have the experience, but I'm not truly free to lead this. Because if I was, I would have gotten that resource very early on. Very early on. And so, okay, think for yourself, are you adequately resourced for the work that you oversee? Or is there some way that you have maybe been doing the same thing I was, which was telling them what you need, and they keep telling you, just tell us what you need. And you tell them what you need, and they keep saying, tell us what you need. So it is crazy making. And I don't think that organizations realize how often they do this to women. And what's the difference between when it happens to a man and a woman? Well, I think all genders are affected by this under-resourcing thing, like I said. But here's where it's a little bit worse for women. We are always walking a tightrope. And if we complain that we didn't get the resource, or we say that we're under-resourced, we look like we're complaining, okay? We look like we're complaining and not holding the organization responsible, which is what we really are doing. So we look like a complainer. We look like we're making excuses for ourselves. And that puts us at even higher risk of being seen as less effective. Okay, so even if it's the same thing happening between men and other genders, it affects the other genders disproportionately because the perception is that we can't handle the responsibility, that we're complaining, etc. Okay, so that was question number 2. Are you adequately resourced for the work you oversee? It's either yes or no. You don't get any halfways on this. It's either yes or no. Third question, are you invited into the rooms where decisions are being made about your team's work? And if it's your department's work or your company's work, whatever it is, whatever level you are in the organization, are you invited into the rooms where decisions are being made about your group's work? Now, we can't always be because our bosses, they have a right to make like budget decisions and things like that. We won't always be in the room. But again, by what happens inside, whether your gut tightens up or your chest tightens up, when it's a room you should have been in, when your voice should have been heard at the table before a decision was made. All right? Because you are the person leading it. So it's a yes or no question. Are you invited into the rooms where decisions are being made about your team's work? So we've asked 3 questions so far, and they're either yes or no. The 4th question, is your advice acted upon? So every leader is asked, again, this is formal or informal. You don't have to be in a management role to be a leader. But when you are responsible for something, when you are a knowledgeable person expected to provide leadership, you often are called to advise the decision makers. And the question is your advice acted upon? And this is not necessarily a gender thing, okay? But we're looking at whether you are truly free to lead or not. And if you are the expert in the field or the person responsible for a certain aspect of the organization's work, and you're asked to give advice, that's fantastic. There's a level of trust there that you have, I'm sure, earned. But are they acting upon that advice? Or do they bring you in because you're the person they should bring in? Okay, politically, they should bring you in. And then when you advise them, they do the exact opposite over and over. So give that some thought as well. Have there been times recently when you've been asked to weigh in on something and it's like you didn't speak? It's like it didn't matter at all. All right. Now, fair enough that the organizations are not always going to go with our advice. There are other factors involved that maybe we don't even know about. But if this is a consistent pattern, if you're called in and you advise and they do the opposite, maybe you're not so free to lead. So that's a yes or no question. And the answer may be sometimes, but I want you to answer it yes or no overall. And then the 5th, is your strategy impacting the organization's strategy? Because real leaders, they're not just managing, but they are creating a vision for the future. They're moving their organization or they're part of the organization toward that future. And so if you've built a strategy around maybe a product that you want to launch, or maybe it's the way that operations are going in your organization, whatever your field is, when you build a strategy for that part of the business or the organization and you communicate that and you start marching toward it, does it end up affecting the organization's strategy overall? Now that's a tough bar, because for most of us, we would not look at our work and say, okay, we're helping the organization determine where it's going to go. But I ask that high bar question because if the answer is yes, you are so much more free to lead right now than you may have imagined. And I would like to see you step into that completely and make even more of an impact in your organization. So if the answer is no, that your strategy, maybe you don't have one or you have one, but it's not really impacting the organization's strategy overall, okay, you may not be the tail that's wagging the dog just yet. But I hope that you find ways to be that tail that wags the dog in the very near future. Because when you can get to that point where what you're doing starts to make everybody else look at what they're doing, and then collectively the organization decides to upgrade, modernize, step forward, that's when you are truly free to lead. And I wish that for all of you out there, that you find that way that you can really be what Stephen Covey used to call a trim tab. So you have to read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a really good book. Old classic, but it's wonderful. Okay, so 5 questions. They're either yes or no. Where did you land? If it's 3 out of 5, you're doing pretty good. If it's 4 out of 5, you're doing great. But what if it was like 2 out of 5, 1 out of 5, or 0 out of 5? Question is, what do you want to do about it? What do you want to do about it? Doesn't mean you need to quit your job. It just means that you need to start tackling these things one at a time. So here's what I'm going to do for you. I am creating a self-assessment. It's not out there yet, but by the time you listen to this podcast, it might be in the show notes. I am creating a self-assessment checklist for women to get really more into details about whether they are truly free to lead. And if they are not, give some tips on how to move forward and make sure that they are more free to lead next year than they were this year, because we want to be moving forward and making a bigger impact. So that's what I'm offering you today. When it's in the show notes, you'll be able to hop over to my website and take the self-assessment. And in the meantime, if you happen to be listening to this early on when it's not there yet, you are welcome to book a call with me and discuss, your results out of these quick 5 questions, and maybe we can strategize together. So I'll leave a link in the show notes to book a call with me if you would like to. All right, until next time, thank you for stepping up. Thank you for being a shining light and for being a frontline leader in your world. See you next time.